What's going on? Jake here with Uncommon EDC, and today we're checking out the Dukwin Single Watch Winder. This is available on their site for $99.99 in 3 different colors, and I'll be sure to leave a link to where you can find it in the description of the video as always. They do offer multi-watch winders as well if that's something you're looking for, and Dukwin was kind enough to provide a coupon code exclusively for my audience. I don't earn a commission off of it or anything like that, but it will save you 5%, so I'll be sure to leave that in the description as well. Be sure to take advantage. If you're ordering anything on their site, it works for the multi or the single watch winders. Now, as far as what this is, most people who click the video are probably familiar with watch winders, maybe even in the market for one, but if not, these are made to wind your automatic watches, which is exactly what it sounds like. Now, you can manually wind them, but they're also made to work with the motion of your wrist, and so these winders keep that power reserve up, so if you're not wearing them on a daily basis, you can still have them set when you go to pick them up, which is the most frustrating thing about automatic watches for me. I own several of them, and I'm the type of person that doesn't really wear the same watch on a day-to-day basis. I usually don't carry the same knife or pen or anything like that on a day-to-day basis. Really like to switch it up. So having it ready to go without having to set it, especially on movements with multiple complications that you have to set, so you may be having to set the time and the day, maybe some other things as well, and so it just makes it so simple, and it looks great while it's doing it. Now, I mentioned available in 3 colors. It's mainly referring to the vegan leather wrap around our winder, so this is the flame orange, also available in Hulk green and midnight black, but the metal accent is also going to be a little bit different on those. Like the black one has a blacked out metal, this one has that copper color, which I love. That's one of the reasons I went with it. The other reason I went with the orange is I thought it would look great with this particular watch, which is the Ameritac DC50. I'll try and link to that down in the description if it's still available as well, but obviously it has those orange accents, so it really pops with the flame orange leather on here as well. Now, the winder itself is about 5.51 inches long by 4.13 inches wide and then 4.13 inches tall. Has some leather feet on the bottom as well, so it's not sliding around wherever you have that set up. Not a lot of removable parts on here as well. Obviously there's a big moving part being the motor, but you don't have access to that. Really, you have your dust cover, the winder body itself, and then the watch cuff on the inside, and so not a lot of parts to get lost or anything like that. One of my favorite things about this winder is first how quiet the motor is. It's running off a Mabuchi motor and it makes virtually no noise. You may have noticed in the background. You may hear my dog snoring, you may hear the traffic, but the winder itself isn't really letting off any audible noise that I can detect. And so when I first got it, I set it up on my workbench. Actually, that's where it's been until now, because I was worried about that making a quiet noise, a quiet hum in the background. And I'm someone who, if I hear something like that, I have a difficulty falling asleep. So even stuff like my Timex watches, which are notoriously loud, I don't store in my bedroom because I don't want to hear them clicking. Even inside a watch box, I can still hear them click, click, click. And so it takes me a little bit longer to fall asleep when I hear that. And so this one is completely silent. I would have no problem sleeping with this on my nightstand right next to my bed. And so love that about it. The other thing that I really like is the power source. So it comes with the regular AC/DC power cord here that you can charge, power adapter, and so that's included obviously, but it also comes with this smaller cord. And so on the back of this, we can turn it around, and we'll cover this so we're not doing any spoilers here. We have our input here as well as our output over here. And so what that allows you to do is connect multiple units together with only one plug in the wall. So maybe you're starting out, you only have 1 or 2 automatic watches, you cycle back and forth, so you're always wearing one and having one on the winder, but eventually you add another one to your collection. You can pick up a second one of these, even if it doesn't match, and use that cord to daisy chain them together and run them off of a single power source, which is really useful and really nice to be able to get multiple units on that single power source so you're not taking up all the plugs in your wall. The other thing I really like about it was what I was covering, is that this can also run off AA batteries. I obviously don't have the cover on here so that we can see. It's 2 regular rechargeable AA batteries. These ones happen to be Olight's 2500 milliamp hour batteries, but regular AA batteries in here works perfectly. And so that's great if you want to use this for travel. I probably wouldn't use it like that at home because why drain the batteries when you don't need to? But say you're going out of town and you want to take those 2 watches with you, you can toss this in your suitcase, put this on the nightstand in your hotel and have a watch winder with you. If you're a little bit more adventurous, maybe you can take it camping, put it right next to your sleeping bag, although I'm not sure I would recommend that, but it gives you a lot more options to take this with you. Also makes it a whole lot easier to film because I don't have to contend with that wire being there. And so really love that it can run off multiple power sources. I don't know how long it will run on these. That might be a worthwhile test to do as well, but should run a decent long time with those AA batteries. And again, these ones are rechargeable, so I can just swap them out when those die on me. And so really nice. We'll go over the controls in a moment here. Let's go ahead and turn it off though, so that we can remove the watch here so we can see how that's installed. It does have the dust cover. This isn't a requirement, although I think it looks significantly better with that dust cover on. It's also going to keep the dust off your watch, obviously, and most importantly, it's going to keep you from touching that movement while it's in motion. So you can damage the motor if you're trying to remove this and put it back in while it's moving, and so that keeps you from accidentally touching it or accidentally knocking that off of its track while it's in motion. And so you can make sure to turn it off before removing that dust cover. Just a simple screw on, screw off, counterclockwise to remove it, clockwise to put it back on. It has an acrylic glass here, excuse me, an acrylic shield here to keep everything nice and protected. Now the cuff itself is easily removable. All you have to do is pull on it. It requires a decent amount of pressure, but not too much, so it's not difficult to remove. And that's because there's a detent ball on either side locking it into place. In order to remove the watch, I just push down on this pad. There's a little spring in there. I push down on that pad, and then I'm able to remove the band here. And then when I let go, obviously that extends. So the cuff itself has some leather to keep everything protected. All your metals touching that vegan leather, not touching any plastic or anything like that to keep it protected. Have the Dukwin logo there. Obviously the leather matches the wrap on our winder itself. And then again, there's a spring in there and some detent balls. So very simple. You can see what the inside of that winder looks like. There's a track for those detent balls to slide into, and that's really it. So we can put the watch back on. In order to add this back on, you just slide the watch over exactly like you might expect. And then you do have to make sure to depress that spring. Otherwise, I'm not able to close the clasp on my watch. And so I just depress that spring, close our clasp here, and then it is locked back into place. I like to make sure it's centered so it looks a little bit better. When you go to put it in, just line those detents in with these slots, and you just push until you hear a click. Once you're done, you just screw that dust cover back on and you are good to go. And so in order to control it, we have our controls on the back. Really simple user interface on here. We have two different dials, one to control the direction of the knob or the direction of that turner, and the other to control the speed, how many turns per day. And so next to that, we have our in port. That's where you're gonna plug the power source into. Make sure the one that's going into the wall is going into your in port, otherwise it's not gonna work. And then your out port, which is where, again, you can chain these together and connect multiple units. We also have that batteries with the dust cover. Excuse me, speaking of dust. And so from here we have these two dials, and you can turn these in order to turn it on. So the first one is our directional dial. This one, the first position is going to be your off position. The second position is clockwise. Third is counterclockwise. So you can see here we have the clockwise motion. If I turn it around and move it to the third position, it switches the direction of that to counterclockwise. The fourth is both clockwise and counterclockwise, so it rotates between them. And the last is a fixed mode. This one's interesting. I believe it actually overrides your turns per day setting or the program parameters on there. The fixed mode runs 30 minutes clockwise, then 30 minutes counterclockwise, and goes back and forth between those for 4 hours before ultimately resting for 20 hours. And so that's kind of a unique mode where the other ones have a set cycle period and how many turns per cycle, and it will go through 70 to 72 cycles per day. This one is kind of a set for those first 4 hours, and then for 20 hours it's not moving at all. Not 100% sure why you might want that one. Maybe you just don't like the movement, it's distracting, but I love the way it looks, so I like seeing that pop on and off throughout the day. Most of my automatic watches have a minimum of a 21-hour power reserve, so if you do use that mode, you're going to be just fine with that without having to set that watch again once you remove it from its winder. Now, our second is how many turns per day. And so that's a calculation of how long the cycles last, how many turns per cycle, and how many cycles you get per day. But ultimately, it determines how many times that watch is turning. So on our lowest setting, that's going to be 650 turns per day. Then you have 750, 850, 1,000, and then 1,250. I don't really have it set to anything in particular. I just chose the medium 850. That's what I've been running it on, and it's worked perfectly fine. Have always had power on my watch when I go to pull it out of here, and so that works perfectly for me. I'm sure people that are really familiar with different movements know that they're optimized for more or less turns per day, and we'll set it exactly to that. For me, this 850 has worked perfectly for the couple watches that I've tried in here, and so really happy with that setting. And then I usually set it to the clockwise counterclockwise mode, and so that's going to be our 4th positioning there, and just leave it set to that. But that's really it for this one. Beautiful, beautiful piece. Obviously, it looks great. It fits in really well with both my workbench and my nightstand. On my nightstand, I have this toolbox inspired watch box for my watches. On my tool bench, I have a cigar box that looks like an old ammo box, and so fits in perfectly with both of those. And so I love the way it looks. Is perfect for just keeping it set. Like I said, that's my biggest pet peeve with automatic watches, although that's the main type of watch I buy. I don't really buy that many watches outside of like Timex and G-Shocks that aren't automatic, and so absolutely love this. Definitely will be picking up more and chaining those together in the future. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. As usual, if you enjoyed the video, consider liking, commenting, subscribing, checking out some of my other content. I'll loop in a shot of where this is sitting on my workbench at the end of this video, and just can kind of watch it silently spin. But thanks so much for watching, and I hope you have a great one. Take care.